Alright, so this is going to be a speedrunning tutorial for Santa 1 skip and Pumpkin Jack. So this is a skip that's applicable for both the Any% and New Game Plus categories. Now, normally in the North, which is the final level in the game, you have those big Santa's workshops where you go into mini Jack form and you kick presents back at Santa, and it's a really slow and annoying minigame. And so what we can actually do in the speedrun is do a series of menu jumps to get on top of some of the houses and jump over the Santa minigame, effectively skipping it. So a couple of things to note before we get started. This guide assumes some knowledge with the speedrun because this is a bit of a more advanced trick. So if you haven't already, I would go and check out Brit's Any% 12-hour challenge tutorial video. It covers the whole game, including some basic menu jumping, which you'll need to know for this trick. I have included a link for that in the description of this video. Go there first, learn the run, then come back here after you've done a couple of runs, okay? So before we actually go in and start learning how to do the menu jumps to climb up on top of the village, I need to explain something in a little bit of depth that goes into a lot of the more advanced menu jumping strats, which is called proxying. So I'm going to hop into Skeleton real quick just so I can show you what a proxy looks like and how they relate to menu jumping. So I guess just for a little bit of a review, let me just clear these folks. So essentially for menu jumping, the way that let me just get these guys. Sorry, this is a little impromptu. But basically, the way that menu jumping works is that while you're sort of holding into a piece of geometry such as a wall or a tree, you open up the weapon select menu. And normally in the game there's a mechanic where the game requires you to be on a solid surface for a set amount of time until you can get your double jumps back. And so that's just kind of like a gameplay / game feel sort of mechanic that's in the game. But it turns out when you open up the weapon select menu, it slows down time by a lot, but it doesn't change the amount of time that it takes for you to be considered on solid ground. So as a result, if you have the menu open, you can actually trick the game into thinking that janky bits of collision are solid ground. So for example, I can menu jump up this tree and get a double jump right here. Now, most of the time, that works pretty well for pretty simple cases, such as the first of the mines skips, or the bomb skips in the mines level, where you just only really need to do one and it gets you over the ledge. But as you start to do menu jumping strats that require more, something that can happen when you're attempting to land a menu jump is something called a proxy. So I'll show you an example of what a proxy looks like here. So here's a strat that I have started to incorporate, where you actually menu jump up this tree to get over the sort of the bomb pushing puzzle in this section. And you'll notice is that when I get kind of stuck in between, when I get stuck in between the tree and the wall here, I have my hands off the keyboard or off the controller if you're a controller player, and Jack is just automatically jumping. So the reason that what proxying is essentially the game thinks that you are in a falling state. So the game thinks you're in an airborne state, but you're not actually falling. You're in a airborne state, but you're not moving anywhere. And the game does not want you to be in that kind of a state because it would lead to a soft lock. So what the game will do, as you see right here, is it'll propel you upward in order to try to help you get unstuck, right? So now, in this example right here, it just kind of happens automatically. But sometimes when you're doing menu jumping, it can happen unintentionally. So one of the issues and one of the things that you'll have to keep in mind when we learn this series of menu jumps is you'll need to learn how to react to proxies mid-series of menu jumps. And I know that sounds really scary, really overwhelming. It's not actually as bad as I'm making it sound. I just want to make you aware of what proxies are before we get started, because ideally, if you do the setup right, you won't get proxies very often. But if you do, I want you to be ready and know what to look for to be able to react to them. Okay? So we're going to load into the north now, and I'll show you just the quickest path. So from the bridge, just kind of make your way down the hill, and then you can take this post from the clothesline, and you can just double jump, orb attack across. You don't have to do any orb boosting there or anything like that. So from here, to get to the spot, you go to the leftmost house, and you go between from the right side. And then you'll eventually, if you keep kind of going forward and to the left, you'll see this net. Okay? This net, and where this house meets the tree, is where we're going to do the series of menu jumps. Okay? So the way that I start the chain of menu jumps is I point my camera in a specific direction. So if you look at this house, there's two kind of square wooden beams that hold these Christmas lights together. I try to keep the one on the left in the middle of the game window. So I rotate the camera to the left so that that's in the center. So when I'm doing the menu jump, I'm sort of wedging myself between the tree and the right side of this house, okay? And so for the first menu jump, what I do is I do one full jump. I do one full jump from the ground, wait a little bit, and then do my second jump and hit the menu button. I find that doing it in this way makes getting the first menu jump a little more consistent. So watch how I do this, and you can look at the input display down below to get a better picture. So I go 1, 2, menu, and you can kind of see he already stops, and I pretty much instantly have gotten a menu jump. Now, the rest of the menu jumps, you're doing kind of in this crease where the tree meets the house, and the house's collision actually goes up pretty high. So it's going to look like you're kind of bonking into nothing, but it's actually just kind of a rectangular shape. So you're pretty much set to go. But with every successive menu jump forward, I alternate flicking the camera a little bit from left to right. So if you're a keyboard and mouse player like me, what that'll look like is you get the first menu jump, and then I sort of do it a little bit to the right, and then a little bit to the left and to the right, and I kind of alternate directions. And the idea behind that is sometimes when you're doing this specific set of menu jumps, you can actually kind of get stuck and bonk your head a little bit. And by weaving back and forth ever so slightly to the left, so if you're on controller, for example, maybe just tap once or twice on the right control stick. That way you can avoid getting stuck. So I align the camera, get the first one, and then I go to... Okay, so you see right there how I automatically jumped? That's one of the things you have to be ready to react for when you're doing this. So when I did that second setup for the menu jump, I got it right, but the game made me jump automatically. And the reason why that can be a problem is that initial proxy jump counts as one of your two jumps, okay? So what you have to do in that situation is react to whether or not you get the proxy there. And I know that can sound kind of hard, but there are two sound cues that I would recommend learning to get the feel for. The first and probably more important one is the sound of when Jack hits the ground on any given surface. So it kind of sounds like very soft and almost fabric-like. Almost like the way I've described it is like breaking a block of wool in Minecraft. So when you hear that sound of that sort of woolen step, that's when you know you've at least made contact with the ground. Once you know you've made contact with the ground, what you want to do is wait just a tad bit longer to wait and hear if Jack makes an audible grunt. If Jack makes an audible grunt, that means you got a proxy jump. And then in that case, if you get the proxy jump, just don't press the space bar. Or don't press, I guess, the X button in that case, or the A button. If you hear Jack grunt, wait, and then do your second jump. It sounds kind of scary to try to react to that, but with enough practice, it is pretty easy to get the feel for it. And you can kind of start to expect, like, which specific menu jumps in the chain that we're doing are the ones that are more likely to give you proxies. So you can kind of turn off your brain for some and like focus on specific ones to react to. So I find the second menu jump in the sequence is the one that is most likely to give you a proxy, and also sometimes the fourth and fifth, depending on your angle. So again, we're going to be doing a menu jump with this camera angle, and then with each successive menu jump, we're going to be alternating moving the camera left, right, ever so slightly. These are just micro adjustments. So it should look something kind of like this. Yeah, so react to the proxy jump. Now right here, sometimes this will happen, especially if you overcorrect on the camera, where you'll be holding forward and Jack will just kind of stand still. This will happen sometimes, and the way to recover from it is to let go of any direction. So it's just completely neutral, wait for about a quarter to half a second, and then start holding forward again. So like this. Let go, you see him start to fall, and then you can recover and react from there. So again, it's happening again, where I let go, reset to neutral, then you hold forward. And now sometimes you won't get the footstep audio cue for when you land on the ground. A lot of the time, you can make a sort of judgment call, where if it looks like you're in sort of that aerial squat animation, and you're at a standstill in terms of your height, that probably means you've gotten the menu jump. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to learn to react to specific visual cues in Jack's animations and certain audio cues. Although at first I would recommend learning the audio cues because from a brain psychology standpoint, you are actually capable of reacting on average faster to audio stimuli. So relying on those might make it easier for you. If you have trouble with auditory reactions, prefer to rely on the visual, I mean by all means. But that would be my suggestion. Okay? So this is one of those tricks where you kind of have to be ready for a couple of emergent scenarios. But let me try to give you a couple of examples of what it looks like. So 1, 2. And then once you get about one jack length or lower below the tree, you can actually start to hold up and to the right, and it'll either take an extra menu jump or you will ledge grab on top of the house. So by the end, you should have landed on top of this house, and that's the end of the hard part. Okay, let me show you one more time the way that you end off that sequence. So wait. For the audio cue, there's the audio cue, there it is, there's the audio cue, and then you hold up and to the right, and you'll either go straight over it, or sometimes if you have lower height, you'll just grab up on the ledge, okay? Now, notice how I continue to kind of shark my camera. That's really, really important. And as you get better and as you continue to practice this, you'll start to notice patterns in when you expect Jack to give you the menu jump. So while you can use the the auditory and visual reaction methods that I described at first, as you start to practice it, you'll start to get a feel for when you normally get the menu jump, and you won't have to rely on reacting as much. So even more than usual, the more that you practice it, the more it becomes a feel-based trick rather than a hard numbers or do X, Y, and Z, and here's your flow chart, right? So yeah, that's how you handle the menu jumps part of it. Now from here, once you get on top of the house, you double jump, and make sure you jump earlier than you think you need to, because sometimes you can accidentally fall off of the houses, and you don't want to do that. So you just jump from house to house on top of the roof. And then what you want to do is kind of, for the last house, Santa's Workshop, you want to kind of line yourself up with that candy cane on top, walk forward, and then just double jump. And you should get on top of the workshop house. And then from here, you can just jump down. And you can go hit the checkpoint here, or if you want to risk it, you can immediately land right on here and go for the lamp boost if you're feeling spicy. But yeah, that is essentially Santa 1 skip in a nutshell. I hope that going over that was helpful. If anything was unclear, or you need extra help with this, feel free to let me know. Leave a comment in the video, below the video, or feel free to reach out to me through the Pumpkin Jack Discord. All of the speedrunners for the game mostly hang out in the community/developer Discord for Pumpkin Jack. So feel free to shoot one of us a message there if you're still having trouble with it. All right, I hope this helps you get a good start for trying out this skip, and thank you so much for watching. Peace.